My name's Madon Wingo. I'm a licensed midwife out of Sweetwater, Texas.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Elliott, and I'm a licensed midwife in Fort Worth, Texas.
So we came to the Capitol today to lobby and talk to all our representatives about midwifery, and specifically about a pharmaceutical bill that was brought forward this morning regarding the ways that midwives get their medications. So currently, as the law stands, we have to go through a physician in order to get the life-saving meds that we use for our mamas in the postpartum, usually the immediate postpartum. You know, in labor and delivery, there's a lot of things that we need to keep on hand with us. And as the state law is right now, we have to go find a physician who's willing to offer that to us and basically make a contract with them of what we will carry and what we will do with it, and then pay them for that. And it's quite a barrier for midwives in our area. So we're here specifically about that bill, lobbying to just to let them know about midwifery and tell these legislators, you know, of what the barriers it causes for us and how we would love for this bill to pass so that we can break down those barriers and midwives can just get the meds that we need, that we're trained to use, and keep them on us all the time, ready to help our families and moms and babies.
Yes. It's just really hard for some midwives, licensed midwives, who serve an area that is a maternity desert. And there's lots of those in Texas. There's many counties in Texas that are maternity deserts. That means that they don't have a hospital that has a labor and delivery unit. And in that way, we as midwives are bridging the gap. And so it's really important for us to be able to have those medications when we are so far from a hospital. And so if we don't have access to a doctor who will give us standing orders, then the next best thing is to hopefully have this pharmaceutical bill that will allow all midwives that are licensed in Texas to then have medications without having to go to those extra lengths to get them.
Yeah, absolutely. And even the rural areas that I serve and Sabrina used to serve in the same area that I'm in, like there's a lot of our hospitals don't even have L&Ds anymore. So I don't even know if they have those life-saving meds on hand for them for their particular situations. I know in EMS recently that I dealt with, they didn't have Cytotec with them, misoprostol, which is needed for a postpartum hemorrhage. And I had it on hand instead and was able to use it because I do have standing orders with a physician who so kindly helped me with that. But again, breaking down barriers, making the continuity of care, we really want that to be consistent across the board, and we can help the hospitals and we can help the OBs and we can make it so that we have safer maternity care in the rural parts of Texas.
We absolutely know that obstetric care and hospitals are needed when life-saving measures need to be handled, and getting them to a hospital is really the most important thing so that they get quick care. But sometimes just in that time period, if they live very far from a hospital, then it's just about saving the time, saving them until we can get them to a safer location where they can get better and a higher level of care. But without some of those medications, living out in the middle of nowhere in a rural area can be really detrimental for those families.
And time is of the essence in those moments. I mean, you know, if we can quickly get on top of it and address it, you know, sometimes we're able to shut it down, which is wonderful, but just waiting for time to get to the EMS or to get to the hospital, right, whatever the case might be, like we absolutely need to always have those on us.
Yeah.
Sure, I think we have a little bit different history on our training. So I attended the National College of Midwifery out of Taos, New Mexico. And so it is a long distance program where I did all my academics online. So 80 credit hours of academics all going towards a midwifery degree. And then we did over 120 credit hours of apprenticing or preceptoring with local community midwives, and making sure that we covered all different types of births and all different types of roles, and kept track of all of that in order to complete my degree with them. And then once I was done with that, I was able then to submit everything to NARM, the North America Registry of Midwives, so that I could get their approval to set for the NARM board exam, which when completed and passing that, I became a certified professional midwife. And so once doing so, then I was able to do the licensing regulations and laws for Texas. I was able to take an exam that TDLR has and submit all of that paperwork to TDLR, who is the
licensing board.
Thank you. The licensing board for CPMs in the state of Texas, or licensed midwives in the state of Texas. And then they gave approval whether they accepted that or not. And then I became a licensed midwife once they did.
So I went to the Association of Texas Midwives training program, and that's a recognized, Texas recognized training program for midwives that is watched over and guarded by the Department of State Health, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. And that it entails, 2 or more years of school, and then also at least 24 or more months of an apprenticeship. And that's what I did. I actually lived in Abilene, so I was in a very rural area, and I would drive to Dallas and drive 3 hours a couple of times a week so that I could go through my apprenticeship, because that was part of it. And after I finished my whole schooling and my apprenticeship and all the things that were required to finish that education, then I did the same thing, applied for the NARM test, which is National Association of Registered Midwives, and that gave me my CPM credential when I passed that test, and then supplied the state with all of my documents and everything, and took the Texas licensure test that's more over like state regulations, and became licensed in Texas as well.
That's a very valid point that you made. I didn't even think about that during the apprenticeship or preceptorship part. Like, I know you drove a long ways. One of the reasons I wanted to become a midwife is because when I was seeking a midwife with my 5th child, I really struggled in our rural area, and I ended up driving 120 miles to go see a midwife. Right. And so I didn't consider, whenever I started midwifery school, that I need to find a midwife that is going to be my preceptor. And so I drove to Midland and Odessa, and then I drove to Abilene, and I even had I drove to Lubbock to preceptor, and then I even had a stint of a month that I went to Tennessee. Yeah, and I went and worked with a well-seasoned midwife in Tennessee for a month, and it was awesome, all to get all the skills that we needed and all the experience that we need in order to become a licensed midwife.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of midwives do have that, where they kind of bounce around to different preceptors, and they have to drive really long distances, and they do all that they can to really learn all the basic skills and to get a lot of different exposure. And so being able to go and have apprenticeships with different preceptors allows you to see midwifery in a couple of different lights, whether that be in a large group practice in a birth center, or that be in a private practice that's a home birth practice, and just the different things that different midwives are comfortable with, and different ones that have a lot of specialties that maybe the other preceptors haven't had.
Yeah. Well, so one of the issues is, so TDLR, like we said a minute ago, so the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations, they are who oversees licensed midwives in the state. And there are some groups lobbying for us to be moved over to the medical board. And that would present some problems for licensed midwives. They've been moved around before. So they were with DSHS before, and then got moved to TDLR, and they've got a really good midwifery board going right now with TDLR, and they've been setting up some really good precedents and working, towards, like
TDLR has had to learn what midwives do, and they've taken an interest in trying to figure out what our scope of practice is and what true midwifery care looks like. And so then switching over to another board means we have to go back to something where a lot of people may be new in that group of people, and they may not know anything about midwifery care, and so we're having to re-educate. But not just that, it is a medical model, it's a medical board, so they're not going to see normal physiologic birth very often. We find that sometimes when we transfer people to the hospital or to an OB care, that a lot of times nurses that we come in contact with, labor and delivery nurses and stuff, have said to us like, man, I've never actually seen a natural birth. And even though we're transferring, it doesn't necessarily mean that somebody's actually having a cesarean or having more medicalized birth. It may just mean that their baby needs to be watched over more. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're getting an epidural or having a cesarean. Yeah. So being in a place like underneath the Texas Medical Board does make us a little bit nervous, because we don't know necessarily that they're going to really understand what we're all about. Yeah. And there's definitely a learning curve there.
One of the things about that too that I have heard brought up that a few people want to push for is keeping more statistics on midwives and the clients they're taking care of and all of that. And I think some people, like, maybe this is just a misunderstanding. They don't understand that when we do register births, we are doing statistics. So that if you've ever registered a birth, it's pages and pages of information that the state wants. And so they're getting all that statistical information from us already. So it wouldn't necessarily, that would not be a benefit they would gain by trying to move us to somebody else.
Right. It's not that they're just finding out information about that patient and their partner and their baby, but also about like what their birth looked like, how long it was, how long the postpartum was, whether there were any complications. We have to document all of those things with vital statistics, so they are keeping track of what is happening with us.
Yeah, those are the main things that I can think of right now that has kind of come out. Oh, there is one more that I just remembered. Another thing is going to be that they're wanting to work towards, this is just what I've heard from a couple different ones of something that maybe some other lobbyists want to work towards, would be midwives required to carry malpractice insurance, and that birth centers are required to be some type of a registered birth center certification. Again, accredited. It's just, mm-hmm. So it's a big process for midwives to be able to do that. And so it's just adding more and more stuff for midwives to think about, to take care of that end, instead of being able to put their energy into taking care of their clients. And on malpractice insurance, it's very difficult for midwives to be able to get malpractice insurance, and it's extremely expensive. And if I tried to get malpractice insurance right now, I would be working just to pay for my malpractice insurance. And I don't think it would benefit anybody.
Well, there's also a lot of things that malpractice insurance won't cover. So there would still be times where we might decide to do a certain birth that they wouldn't cover. And so there's still limitations on that. It wouldn't cover everything. So I do think that it's definitely kind of meant to cut out the middleman. It's kind of the same concept as, small business owners getting cut out by bigger corporations. And that really is what would be happening if we were forced to have malpractice insurance. And of course, birth centers typically do have that, because that way they can accept insurance if they want to, and they have more liability in the fact that they own a practice and own a building. But when you're talking about, Madon or I, this having like individual home birth practices, that really doesn't make the most sense for us, because we have personal relationships with our clients, and we feel like they truly know who we are and that our heart is for them and to do the very best for them. So it's not always something that we as individual home birth midwives would choose to do for ourselves.
Yeah. I think people don't realize that a lot, that especially sole home birth, individual providers that we do, we have to do it all. And I know a lot of small business owners understand this, but that's what essentially we are, as well as being a provider for our clients. Like, we're not only taking care of them through the whole pregnancy and labor and delivery and postpartum, we're filing their birth certificate, and we're keeping track of finances for our own business, and we're doing all the secretarial work, we're interpreting labs, we're drawing labs, we're doing all those things. Like, it's all encompassed, and rarely do any of us get to hire anybody else out to be able to do some of those things for us. And so there's a lot of things that we have to juggle and take care of and balance, but we love it. So we're so glad that we get to do it.
Yeah. So ATM is the group that is hosting this event. That's the Association of Texas Midwives. It's an organization created to bring midwifery, the midwifery model of care, to light also so to educate the public, but also to be there as a membership group for midwives in the state of Texas. And it really is supposed to be a way to support midwifery in our community, not only for mostly for midwives themselves, but also for anyone who is a supporter of midwifery, as far as like families who have used midwifery care in the past.
Yes. And so like I'm a region representative currently for Region 2. And so I try to reach out before every board meeting and talk with all of the midwives in my area and ask them like, hey, what's going on in your area? What's going on with the hospitals? Like, how are things going between all the midwives? What's extra training that they've done? Those types of things. And then bring that back and let ATM know like, hey, they're needing support here or they're needing support there, or things have gotten better here or there. So just trying to, represent them all. And
ATM also is a way for midwives to have their concerns lobbied, like today, at the state level, so that we kind of have our ear to the ground to find out more information about what is going on in the midwifery world and anything that might threaten our rights or us taking care of people in the future. So they do a really good job of trying to find out all that information so that we can use our lobbyists that they pay for, that the organization pays for, to help fight for our rights to be taken care of.
Yeah, they definitely do a good job of trying to keep an ear out and pay attention of what's going on in regards to laws in the state and upcoming ones that might be objected or put out there, and try to really, make sure people know. Like today, we got to let lots of people know who knew nothing about midwifery. We're getting to let them know more about us and just put a face to what a midwife is and tell them a little bit more about our care and be able to talk to them like why this would be beneficial for our clients, not just for us. I mean, we're used to doing hard things. That's what midwives do all the time. So yes, we would enjoy getting to have the pharmaceutical bill to pass and us being able to get meds easier. However, in the end, it's to benefit our clients and all the families in Texas, to really help those families and provide better care.